Great. Our next presentation is using social for strategy, marketing, and operations with Susan Ganeshan, CMO of New Brand Analytics. Susan, thank you.
Hey, everybody. My name is Susan Ganeshan, and I run marketing at New Brand Analytics. And what we do is help marketers become more relevant. Now, we primarily work in the B2C space. But I'm hoping that you'll find some inspiration, because I know most of you in the room are B2B marketers. So I'm hoping you'll find some inspiration from the way we work with our customers. I can't really do this without telling you a little bit about the company. I swear I'm not trying to advertise us, but I just want to give you the really quick background. So what we do is we take the social customer feedback and we transform it into operational intelligence. Basically, we want to help improve the customer experience, help improve a restaurant, a hotel, or a retailer's operations, and improve their overall business so they can get more customers. Now, for a B2C organization, it's not about leads, it's about loyalty. It's about repeat customers, and it's about getting those customers in the door in the first place. So we did this for organizations like Hyatt. Darden is actually a restaurant organization. You may not know the parent group, but you know Red Lobster, you know Olive Garden, Seasons 52. We work with Best Buy, we've worked with Apple, and no one tell anybody from McDonald's that I put the McDonald's logo up there. I'm not allowed to have that, but we work with McDonald's, and I'm not going to let that opportunity go by to tell you it. Yeah, I can't help myself. So what these organizations do with our product is for their benefit, we gather all that social feedback. Doesn't matter where it is, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, TripAdvisor, Bookings.com, you name it. Where there is data about their business, we grab it. And then we put it through a three-step process where we're looking at the written word and dissecting it. We use machine language to always improve how we're doing that analysis. And then we use some people. It's actually one of my favorite parts about my company is that we use stay-at-home moms out of Atlanta. And they look at every single review, and they eke out every little bit of detail so that our customers can use that detail for their operations. And we present it in this really cool dashboard. So we are software as a service. Let me tell you a little bit more about how we get that data out. Say this was a Facebook post. And I'm sure at one point it was, but I made it up. So I went into a sandwich place. I said my sandwich was tasty, the fries were limp and cold, but the server fixed it and I'll be back. So this rates into different categories for that restaurant. It's about the overall experience, it's about the food quality, the service quality, whether that customer is loyal or not. And we do that detailed breakdown, and not many other companies do this. Many of you probably work with or use Radian 6, and what it can tell you is you have 1,000 tweets, or if you're McDonald's, you have 1.5 million tweets today. What it can't do is break down the data into this detail and then bubble it up and give you the trends and tell you how you're performing over time. And so what we've done in working with the businesses that we work with, and by the way, it's about 150,000 individual locations that we've worked with, is we've learned that they have sort of a social media maturity model that they've progressed through. Most organizations have social media team sitting in marketing, and therefore the marketing team is on the outbound approach of social media. They are tweeting, they are posting on Facebook, they're generating content and reusing it in all of those avenues, right? Some of the more advanced organizations, like these consumer-oriented organizations, are also listening to that data, and they're understanding what is the perception of my brand. Dick's Sporting Goods, the CMO at Dick's Sporting Goods, he ran a campaign recently, and it was about how Dick's is sponsoring local kids in their sports activities, and he wanted to see how well that campaign was taking off, so he used our product to do that listening and learn about how those campaigns are working. Going up the stage a little bit, most organizations are starting to engage. We've all learned it, right? I just took a flight with US Air. I got mad at the woman who handled me onto the plane, and I tweeted about it, and US Air got right back to me, which I was pleased about. But that's our new way of business, right? And you expect those people to come right back to you. So you do have to engage with those users, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. We also need to, or you can, if you're a little bit more advanced, use that data to measure and understand your progress, and then also to plan more definitive strategies. And then finally, kind of the panacea, and where we see this all going, is when you're using it not just to attract an individual, but to attract reams of people into your business in that B2C world, and then optimizing your business in the long run. So let's walk through that a little bit. What are people gaining out of listening? Well, here's an example. Now, I've genericized it for most of our presentations, but this is actually a company based on 7th Street in DC called Nando's Peri Peri. Nando's, if you haven't been, please go. It's so good. Great chicken, absolutely wonderful sauces. My kids make me go there every time we're in DC. But they like spicy, which is why, because they're Indian, because the Ganeshan comes in. So they like spicy. We go there all the time. But guess what? Nando's Peri Peri learned from our data that they would not have known otherwise. They learned that during this period, it was last May, June, July, they had this dip of people talking specifically about their chicken. And when people were talking about their chicken, they said it was dry, right? 64 comments just in that time period about the chicken being dry. Now, in most restaurants, they would have totally missed this. But what they learned is their supplier out of Maryland was giving them chickens that were too small. So they just had to go back and fix it. One small call to the supplier, and you can see how the data trends up, and they get to much more positive trending on their data. So if you can think about that, how do you apply that to your world? How can you use data in what you're learning to improve your business and find those little snafus? Once you've mined that data, you need to engage with people. So here's Roger B. He's written this review about Lowe's. And what Lowe's should do now is click on that engage button and engage with that reviewer and talk back to them about their experience. We recommend you talk to everybody. If they say something positive, you say, thank you. So glad you said that. That amplifies the positive. If they say something negative, you get back to them and you pull out that one little positive thing they said and say, I'm so glad you found your room in our hotel to be satisfactory. I'm sorry the check-in process was bad. I plan to fix that in the future. You don't even have to promise them anything. You just have to show them that you care. Now, what that does for you, and what we've learned by looking at all of these 150,000 businesses, is that a 1% increase in your engagement will improve your overall positive sentiment by 11 to 25%. So if you don't have a team, if you have somebody doing your social media, and then when someone tweets back or retweets, and you don't have a team engaging with them, think about that. They should be engaging with the people who are your brand advocates or even your brand detractors. What will happen a lot of times is somebody who posts a slightly negative review or even moderately negative, if you engage with them, more times than not, they will turn that around and either retract the review completely or turn it into something more positive. So the next thing we did, because we learned all of this, is we put together a social engagement best practices book. It's right on our website, newbrandanalytics.com. It's free. Go check it out and see what works for you out of it. But it's all of the tips and tricks that we found while we help people engage online. Let's look up now to how people are driving their strategy more through using this social data. So here's an example of a hotel who is based on the West Coast who asked us to look not just at their social data, but that of the competitors. And guess what? It's publicly available and it's free. So why wouldn't we compare them to their competitors? And what we found was when we looked at their data is they had something unique in their area, and it was in their food preparation within a hotel, because you think beds matter most, but actually food matters a lot, especially breakfast. But in this particular hotel, it was their sushi bar. Now, when they were marketing, they weren't marketing to this advantage. So what did the CMO do? They turned around and they said, well, let's really let everybody know who comes here, and let's let all the locals know, because you want that revenue as well, that that's an advantage and something we do best in this area. So that's just by looking at the competitive analysis. We've also done a ton of work with a local organization, Five Guys. So Five Guys has more than 1,000 locations. About half of them are franchised. half of them are Five Guys owned. And they've asked us to do a lot of different studies. And we always, with them, focus on not only what they're hearing, but also what we can learn from their competitors. In this case, we went out with Five Guys and we looked at all of their data over about a year and a half. And one thing we learned was, compared to their competitors, one of the things customers were saying is they didn't like the wastefulness of the fries. Have you gone there, right? You get that big bag of fries, it's all greasy on the bottom, and you think, oh, I'm going to eat it anyway. And, and you do, and then but you get towards the bottom and the fries start to get cold, and then you throw a massive amount of fries away. So what Five Guys thought is, and they're very limited in their menu. They will not change their menu dramatically, but they thought, based on this data, let us try a little fry. So they rolled out a little fry. Guess what we did for them? We monitored the social media feedback about the little fry in that region. It was super positive, and so then they rolled it out nationwide. Now, the potato growers, they don't like us so much, but Five Guys generally is better off with this because they have a higher profit margin on the little fry. That's a good thing. Moving on then on how you, from the strategy perspective, and how can you use this in operations? Well, we've done some work with some hotels, some auto dealers, and others, and help them identify types of users and specific users online that they can engage with directly for demand generation. So imagine you are Suzy Q, and you say, I can't wait to go to see the Bieber show at the Charlotte Arena, right? Well, one of the things you can do, if whether these people, Suzy, is going to be staying with you or not, or nearby or not, is you can be useful to her. And once you are useful to her, your brand will stick in her head forever. And so in this case, the tweet went back and said, here's where you get the best parking, right? Now, this was from a hotel, so it didn't help that brand. It didn't help them get a room or a stay, but it surely did ingratiate themselves with this person. And so that's what I've kind of come to the altar from Jay Baer, and he wrote a book called Utility, and that's what we call utility, and that's the kind of demand generation targeting that we're doing. The other example is just when somebody says, explicitly, I need X, right? I need a McFlurry. Well, McDonald's can go find those people and say 10 cents off your McFlurry or $1 off or whatever. In this case, it was somebody saying they were going to Charlotte and they needed a hotel, and here is a 15% off coupon. Now, you have to be careful with couponing and discounts and that kind of reward because people come to expect it, but ideally, that's worth it for you to get that customer and then generate that loyal customer. One other thing I did want to mention is what we do and what we advise our customers to do is take a 411 approach to all of that outbound targeting, especially on Twitter, which is 4 pieces of other people's data, 1 of your own content, and then 1 that's a little bit more salesy, right? And so you're not always constantly trying to come up with your own content, but rather using that 411 approach to keep your Twitter followers active. We've also worked with other organizations where, in this case it was a retailer, where we can help them fix issues that they find very quickly. You may not know that your product's broken until it bubbles up in customer service. Or you may not realize that you're out of stock on something. In this case, it was out of stock at a retailer. Everyone's trying to compete with Amazon, right? Amazon is killing us because they deliver straight to your door, their prices are good, and what you can't let somebody do is just go find that online faster than you could possibly deliver. So it's information like this that helps these retailers understand, do I need to take a different approach? Let me give you another Dick's Sporting Goods example. Dick's, in the middle of winter in their northern stores, was not stocking bathing suits. Well, guess what? Swim team is in the middle of winter. So you need to stock bathing suits then, too. It was through this sort of real-time user-generated feedback that they learned, well, gee, I got to do something about this. Another example at Dick's Sporting Goods was when they learned that there was a lot of complaints about checkout counter. And, think about it. You've probably been in a Dick's Sporting Goods and you've been sitting there waiting, standing back going, do I want that protein bar? I don't think so, but it really looks good and I'm really hungry. But so you wait and wait and wait, and then finally you get to checkout. And your checkout even takes a long time. Well, guess what was causing that? Dick's is sending out promotional items, but the expiration date and coupons, their expiration date on those coupons was so quick that most times they needed a manager override. And so the CMO of Dick's said, well, let's not do that anymore. Let's give people a longer time on this promotion. And that simple change gave them a much faster checkout process, and they stopped seeing that feedback in social media and then also through their secret shoppers. The one thing one of our customers likes to say is push it to the people, right? And this is one thing I'd like to implore on everybody who's in marketing here. If you're in marketing and you're running your social program and you're managing and seeing that feedback, don't hold it close to the chest. Push it out to the other people. Even if you don't have a tool like ours to analyze it, do your best. Put it in Excel, for God's sake. Just do something, right? Do your best to hear that feedback, understand where it applies in your business, and then push it to the people that can make a difference. Right? Because then you become the center, the focus. You help customer support do their job. You help legal do their job. You help your PR team understand what's working and what's not. And that's one of the most important parts that we've learned is that an organization like Hyatt Hotels, there's 3 or 4 people who bought our product and who sit and look at the analytics and analyze it routinely. But there's another 1,000 people who get the data every day in their inbox. And so there is a person at Hyatt Hotels housekeeping who learned yesterday that the sheets on the 7th floor were all stiff, and the customers didn't like it. And there's a person who learned something very specific, like check-in process was a disaster yesterday because a whole busload of people came in and nobody was there to help them. So it's that kind of ability to push out this data to others in your organization that'll make you more relevant and more powerful within the organization. And then finally, take it to the strategic level. So let's go back to Five Guys. Five Guys has amazing burgers, right? And one thing you might not know about their burgers is that their bun recipe is their own. The original Five Guys drew up that bun recipe, and they had bakeries bake it for them. Then when they rolled west, right, they had to go to new bakeries. And guess what? There's different climates out west, and there's different distances that those buns have to travel to get to the Five Guys store. Well, what you see here in that 415 red bar is a group of Five Guys on the West Coast who were all being served by one bakery, and that's their bun score. It's all red. It's all negative. Right? That's bad, because guess who else is out on the West Coast who's really good burgers too? Can you tell I like burgers? In-N-Out, right? So you have to be able to compete with In-N-Out. And so what they were able to do is isolate this one bakery, and they didn't fire them, they didn't kick them to the curb, they fixed it, right? And they used this data in a strategic way. They're working with this bakery now to identify better trucking routes, to identify what was causing the bun problems, the dryness, and what have you, and fixing it. And so there is power in this data. And that's what we all need to learn, is that you may have small volumes of data now, but as your volumes of data grow and as your people, more and more of your customers talk about you in social, maximize that power, find that power in that data and use it. So if I can just leave you with a few things. You need to be listening, and you need to be engaging with all kinds of customers. Go check out our engagement ebook. We also wrote another ebook recently called How to Apologize. And it's how to apologize on all different forms of social media. There's actually really cool ways to apologize on Twitter. It makes you look better than if you do it the wrong way. So there's a How to Apologize ebook as well. And then understand what people are saying about your competitors on social. Once you have that data and you have that knowledge, push it out to the rest of the organization. And realize that, and something I've grown up in my career with the phrase, the answer to your question is not in these four walls. The answer to your questions lie with your customers. So put your customers front and center, listen to them first, and you can do that through these channels. Thanks.